Hey guys, VTech here, Blueberry Hills. So this is a span of about a week, March 1st to the 13th. A couple of days of not so good weather, but regardless, we continued on the truss work, then the rafters, and then the next video you'll see we've started the paneling on the yellow containers. So if you watch the other videos, the trusses are all made with 2x6 with all the supports kind of in a V fashion, like a manufactured truss, and we're using the 5/8 zip sheeting on both sides as the structural component that ties everything together. The small truss here, we basically made the whole thing basically a panel sandwich to support the simple roof we're making. Again, all the roofs are 2x12 pitch, 2x6 construction, and the span is roughly anywhere from 10 to 11 feet depending on where I put the truss, so I could put it against the studs on the walls. The main thing was to get the rafters overhanging enough on the top and bottom end of the containers to get that 2-foot reveal. It's always good to have help. My papa's over here helping me do the rafter work. The weather here, it changed, as you can see. It was really nice this day. Turned nice. This is about 2 weeks after the freeze, right? So anyway, here I'm cutting up a bunch of panels. I had some leftover 3/4 inch plywood for the supports, and when I ran out of that, we went back to the zip sheeting. So here we start the once we did all the trusses. Don't want to show you every single bit of the truss work, but we're starting to hang the panels on the outside of the building. That was the least fun aspect of the whole thing. We used the jib-boom, made a little string support piece. There's a piece of wood on top that spreads the string or the rope so that we could have the panels nice and level. And here I am trying to sandwich it in between the one roof and the wall, so it was a little bit tight. So this one took the longest in all of them just to get it sandwiched in there. But rinse and repeat. We basically used the jib-boom to get all the panels up. When it was windy, it was kind of interesting because the panels were wanting to flop around, but we had the rope that Pop and Angie kind of pushed towards the wall, and we got it all up there. So here's a better view of the jib-boom at work. Basically, we have a Harbor Freight little junky winch. It's the bad part about that winch. It's full speed on or off. It doesn't start slow or stop slow. So it's a bit of a pain to use, but it works really well. It'll lift up apparently 1,200 pounds of stuff. But anyway, it worked pretty good. I had to get the tractor high enough so that we didn't catch the rope on the actual pulley on top of the jib-boom. So that was an unfun thing too. You can see me moving it back and forth to get it in place, and you can see the wind kind of blowing the trees around. This side wasn't too bad, but when we went to the left side of the blue containers, it was super windy. Although we did manage it, but it was I'll say unfun. So this process, we basically, we don't want to nail a string in place, right? The rope in place. So I had to go up on the certain sections of the panel, nail those in. Once the panel was kind of firmly in place, we had to take the ropes out of the picture, and that wasn't too bad. We just let the Pop was down there. He let the winch down and took the load off the ropes, and then we pushed them, moved the panel a little bit to slide them out of the way. So, and that was just a rinse and repeat process as well. So here I am. I don't know if I showed on video, but I'm going to take that piece of wood off and then slide the ropes out of place, and then we're good to go. And now we did for the whole left side of this part and the left side of the container. And here I am. Once I didn't trim them on the ground because you never know how high and low you have to make these things. So I used a sawzall to get the extra pieces off, and it worked well. So you see me working on the side paneling now. So we're going to do all the boards on this side. Actually, we do about half of them, then we finish up the next day. But anyway, Papa's down there with the winch control. I'm nailing what I can to the panel, secure it to the wall. Pop releases the winch down. Again, take the wood out of the picture, and then slide the ropes out of the way, and then we're good to go. This one ended up being not quite flush. I actually made it straight up and down with the stud on the edge, and it was not quite square to the wall. But aside from that, we actually cut small sections out of the next set of panels to make everything true and right again. Here's a good view of the wind. You can see the trees moving. This was pretty windy. I had to hold it against the wall, wait for Pop to run up here. We had it mostly in place, and he'll come up and he'll hold one side. We'll slide it firmly to the left panel, make them all align, and then we'll take the ropes out of the picture again and continue. So you can see that I used a clamp because the wind was so strong I couldn't hold it a nail, and then Pop was holding it on one side firmly to the wall. You can see the ropes in behind the wall, but we don't want to nail on the wrong side of those, so that we'd have a problem getting them out. But actually, in one of these, we did manage to cut the rope because we couldn't get it was too tight. So I just sliced it and then we knotted it up and off we went. Not a big deal. Once the panel's up, get the rope out of the way, and then we start nailing as much as we could reach from the top. And then I finished nailed later on. Here, see, I took the GoPro on the stand and I kind of showed you what I was doing with the down on the ground with the jib-boom. So Pop's using the jib-boom there, the controls, and we usually put the panels up. It's a lot easier when you can actually reach everything right. On this section, we could pretty much nail the entire panel up once we got it up. So this became easier and easier as we got closer to the back side of the containers. As you could probably tell, you could not do this job by yourself. You need almost 2-3 people to minimum to make this work. You see the wind in the background. It never stopped that day. It was, I believe the gusts were up to 30 miles an hour. And here we are. We're gonna handhold this one, and Pop's having a good time with all this stuff. So Angie shows up in a few minutes here, and we'll get this panel up, and then the last corner piece. So we're waiting on Angie to come up because it was too windy for just two of us to do this. Somebody had to nail the panel while both of us, or two of us, held the panel in place. So we're waiting on Angie. She'll come up in a few seconds here, and then we'll nail the panel in place, and we'll be good to go. So here we're trying to finish that up. Angie goes, I think she's trying to find another couple pieces of paneling. We have a few spare pieces because we cut the triangles off right. The bad part is they're mostly for the other side of the containers. She was trying to save a few pieces of paneling, but they're too small, so no big deal. Well, I'm sure we'll have some firewood at the end of all this project. So after Pop left, Angie and I finished up the side paneling. We just got them up there. We didn't finish nail too much if we couldn't reach it. We did that the next day, or I did that the next day. It was easy enough for just two of us to hang it over the edge, let the other panel support the small pieces we were putting up, and we finished that all up that day. There's Angie nailing them down and making it happen. So this is 3/6/2021. Angie and I were putting up the paneling on the last set of paneling on this particular section, and then we start working on the trusses shortly. So the paneling, we wanted to get that out of the way because the blue containers have a full roof all around it. The yellow containers only have a couple of areas that are kickouts, the overhangs, and this section required some wall paneling. We're not going all the way down to the bottom of the floor area because we have to get to the attic space. So March 7th, I started doing the finish nailing on the panels, and at the same time doing a zip tape. So I did all the places that we didn't nail prior day. I finish nailed those, and in the same section I went up on top, let the tape overhang, and then I pulled it back down and made it all good. So for the most part, everything is now will be waterproof walls at least, and then we're going to start on the roof sections and make it all happen. So it's good to have several rolls of the zip tape. That way I could pull a couple sections down at the same time, and you know, just make it happen faster. This area was pretty easy to work on because the ladder was nice and flat on the ground. I'm still 15-20 feet in the air, so it's not my most comfortable moments, but just moved slow and easy, and everything worked pretty good. The fun part was doing the side blue containers because the ground was not quite flat, but we managed anyway. Yeah, so Jake showed up a little later, and we started working on the rafters, on the blue containers. We did the blue first because we can get the rafters. We had to get it from the garage up through on top of the yellow container, and then on to the blue ones. So Jake was working on this section and made pretty quick work of it. So once the rafters were cut, that was the time-consuming part. The bird's mouth and the overhang. 2x4 thickness of the overhang. I had to cut all those on these are 2x6 12 footers. So I cut the 2x4 section on the back side and the bird's mouth on the where it sits on the truss. And then Jake went to town nailing the blocks over. The blocks were spaced so that we could slide another rafter from the next section into them. So we have to put a spacer there, and then nail them later on. So on the 8th, I did a little bit of finish work on the outside before anybody else showed up to help. This was the unfun part. I didn't videotape the whole thing because it was just basically a fun time just moving the ladder around and nailing everything I needed to. Then I moved over to the building the second section. I guess we only got one section done the day prior. And here I am doing the second and third sections. These are pretty easy. Once we got rolling on it, you see the spacer there for the next rafter section, and then just nail and nail. Pretty easy. A lot of pieces. There are 48 rafters on each double wide set of containers, and then the blocking. All the blocking here is 13 inches, and some of the boards, you can see I'm playing with it. They're not quite straight, they're almost straight. So a little finessing work there. So you can see all the this is basically a repeat process. 12 rafters per section, so that's 48 rafters, all 12 foot, and we used both white pine and then western pine, depending on what they had. This is all mostly from McCoy's. I started preferring the white pine. This is white pine. It's dried and it's easier to work with, and it's actually a little better quality wood. I tried to get some of the western, and I couldn't pick through enough of them to make a dent. So a couple dollars extra, but the wood is much better. So it is what it is. Anyway, rinse and repeat. Fun times. And then the muscle showed up, and we started banging them out a little quicker. It's always good to have help. Here we're trying to get a warp rafter in place. They're bowed, or if they're twisted, it's more of a pain. If they're just bowed, it's not a big deal. But anyway, we made it work. here you see the next set of rafters. I already cut the bird's mouth. We're just dropping them in place. Angie's doing the blocking up top there, help me out with that. And then we slide the rafters in. Some of them are nice and tight, which is exactly what we want. And then we slide nail these guys, put the blocking in place, and off we go. So here's a little view of how we're doing the overhang. So the 2-foot reveal. This is 21 inches overhang on the rafter, and then two 2x4s will be on the outside of that for faceplate, etc. So I'm doing the bird's mouth and then the reveal for the 2x4 overhang. Throw those up there. Angie finishes up the bottom section there, and then nail them in place, and we're good to go. So this went pretty quick. Once we cut them all, Angie was helping me put all the rafters in place. We had the blocking already pre-cut, which is on the top section is 14.5 blocking. Separates 16-inch center rafters. Just throw them in place on the truss, snap them in place, put the blocking in, and it was pretty straightforward. This worked really quick. We could probably, I think it took us about a half an hour to bang these out once they're cut and all the pieces are in place. Yay, almost done. A couple more to go. I think this is how you can see from the light. It's probably late in the day, but regardless, this is an easy section to do. Just throw them up there, put the blocking in place, nail it, and done. Can I get a hurrah? Last piece. Yeah, and you can tell I don't shave very often anymore. So Pop came over. We're working on the first section on the yellow containers, the rafters. Just a rinse and repeat process, so we're not going to show you the whole thing. Just quick progress. We banged it out pretty good. Didn't spend all day playing with this. I think this is where we stopped after a couple hours. Can't remember how long it took. Not too bad. And then the next day we finished it all up. So fantastic work there. And again, once we cut all the rafters and then the blocking, everything went pretty quick. So this didn't take us too long. We had a short day. I'm not sure if the weather hit us or what. Later on the 10th, here we are. I started pretty early in the morning, and I banged out this section here probably within an hour. Very quickly, and then Pop showed up and we finished the rest of the rafters. Both Pop and Jake showed up. So this is just me working, and it's going pretty quick because it's very easy to do the bird mouths. Once you measure between the trusses, nail them in place, put the blocking in place, bang bang bang, and off we go. So you can see really, it's just sped up 4x or whatever, but you can see how quick it goes up once you get everything pre-cut. Just snap it in place. We had, you get better at this the more you do it, but this is the last set of sections we're doing, so we're almost done. Now we're getting good. Yay, Pop showed up. Give me a hand on the last section here, and then in a little bit Jake will show up, and we're going to start doing the kickouts on the overhangs. So Pop was good at handing all the stuff to us and everything, and then I was on the roof finishing up the top section, and Jake did the bottom section. And then later on, the weather got really nice later on this day, and Jake switches over to doing the overhangs at the bottom section of this roof. Those are the unfun things because you're kind of hanging over a little bit. So finishing up the rafters here, and then I'm going to put the nailer faceplate on there. And I tried to get long 2x 20 footers, so we don't have too many joints between when we do the overhangs, because it's a pain in the butt doing those, making them nice and level. So as before, I have a clamp with right in front of us. You see a clamp, and it's holding a piece of wood. I just throw the faceplate on there, make sure it's nice and true. You just saw me cut off a small section, and now we're gonna nail it up. I just had to chew it up a little bit. I didn't use a string gauge. I just used my eyeballs on this one and just kind of rigged it a little bit. There we go. These are actually very straight. When there's a lot of adjusting, it's a bit more difficult, but not a big deal. Being able to stand on a roof and do this is easy. When you're overhanging 2 feet, it's not as comfortable feeling. Pop and Jake were working on the overhangs. Basically, he pre-cut all these. I didn't touch these guys, so he measured it out. The overhang, just a 2 by itself, is 21 inches from the paneling, and then the fascia board is going to be 1.5 and 1.5. Maybe one of them's going to be an inch, whatever. But he's doing all the blocking and moving along, making it all nice and even. He's doing the unfun part because he's going to have to lean over a little bit later when we put the fascia plate on there. So I didn't videotape every single piece of this, but he's almost done with the sections there. And then we did finish all the corners and put the outside fascia plate on. Anyway, appreciate you guys watching. Next video is going to be getting ready for the paneling for the yellow roof, and then we're going to finish doing the overhangs on the blue roof, or blue containers. Anyway, talk at you later. Appreciate it. Ciao.